Something changed at Leicester at half-time last week. I keep going back to it.
Well, it was interesting, I think, in the question that Jeff asked Ollie about the approach, having been a counter-attacking team, and then trying to be a pressing team today. You saw that reaction from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, that there might be some confusion in that. Do you think that could have happened at half-time?
There's players in the dressing room that are saying we want to go on the front foot, we want to be a pressing team. Because at half-time at Leicester last week, they were deep in the first half in the shape. They weren't intense enough, absolutely granted, but they were deep in the shape and they were counter-attacking. And Leicester got through them, I think, once and got one chance. Second half, all of a sudden, they started this type of thing that we've seen today, that Graham's just shown us 3 times. All that appeared in the second half at Leicester. Why? How? This Manchester United team have been playing on the counter-attack for 2 to 3 years. You can't change it in a week, or certainly at half-time in the game. It's got to be worked on consistently.
You know, you've been a manager. It's not always down to the manager to you know, when it's actually happening in real time. Big players out there should be saying, what are you doing? Like, Ronaldo's got isolated. You know, like Greenwood gets isolated. Fernandes gets isolated. They must have had a game plan. That's a really worrying thing for me, looking at Man United. They must have spoke about these things. They must have had a game plan. We either do it or we don't do it. But sometimes they did it and sometimes they didn't. And they're all looking around and wondering why they're getting passed through.
Well, don't forget, we talk about Liverpool and Man City pressing really well. Don't forget, at times you will press and it'll be poor, or they won't get it right, or someone will go and press and get done, or someone will go past Sadio Mane or Mo Salah. Because one person gets it wrong doesn't mean it should all fall like a pack of cards behind it. So if we're showing Ronaldo pressing or Bruno Fernandes going on a goalkeeper, that shouldn't be then a trigger that everyone makes a mistake. There'll be times when Liverpool get it wrong, but you know if someone presses too early or too late, they get done, someone comes inside the ball, you don't hold your position.
I want to hear from Jurgen Klopp in just a minute. We haven't done that yet. I'm very conscious of that, but what you're talking about leads to these defensive stats that are getting worse by the game for Manchester United. Have a look at this. Just one clean sheet this
Dave,
season.
I focused on these this morning at 7:30 when I texted you all.
I think it was 7:15.
Yeah,
actually.
seriously. It undermines everything you're trying to achieve. You've got no foundation to build from. If you're that bad at defending, and we've not seen on there the running stats where they're actually distance covered is one of the lowest in the Premier League. So for me, honestly, unless that's fixed, Manchester United will lose a lot of football games. Not just against proper teams like today, but against half-decent teams.
Why are we talking about it now?
You keep going back to half-time at Leicester. There's a bigger problem than half-time at Leicester. That was only a game and a half ago.
Look, half-time at Leicester was when, for some reason, they started to try and think they could high press all of a sudden.
Yeah, but even if they dropped deep before that, look at the numbers.
I was saying that to you about McTominay and Fred. McTominay and Fred, Pogba in midfield, Cristiano up front. There's a structural problem in the team and in the squad.
Whether they press high or whether they drop deep.
But look, there's
why are we
something changed at Leicester.
9 games in and we're talking like this? I mean, that stat, if you're looking to be successful, you will not be one clean sheet. You will not. The first thing you have to get right at a football club when you go in there is make sure you're solid and you're difficult to play against, you don't concede goals. That stat is telling you Man United are not that. So then you start to analyse if you're the staff or Ole. Why are we like this? So the first thing you do, we're getting too stretched, we're too vulnerable, or you're really poor at set pieces. So if it's the first, we're getting really stretched, we're too easy to play against, we have to start dropping off and make sure we're in a total block. The 3 parts of the team are all together, they can't pass through us. That's obviously not happened. And is it because, and this is a question for you, is it because Man United feel they have to play a certain way?
Yeah.
Look, there might be a bit of that, but
it has to be that, Gary.
Graham, he's ripped up. He's left Pogba, Van der Beek, Cavani, Sancho on the bench today and played McTominay and Fred. So he's gone with dogs in midfield.
He goes with Fred and McTominay because he thinks they're more solid. Yeah. We touched on it at the start of the game. You don't bring Fred and McTominay on if you're chasing the game, you know.
But yeah, that's what they seem to try and do.
No, they start the game. They start the game. You got on a solid footing, and if you end up with a goal and you end up in front, they stay on the pitch. If you're chasing the game, you get your more maverick types on.
Graham, the tactic today had to be to drop off Liverpool and play counter.
But they didn't.
I know. That's what I'm amazed at.
That comes back to the staff and the manager.
Yeah,
and it's seismic today.
Were terrible.
It's seismic today because it's only the 10th time in their history, Manchester United, that they have conceded 5 or more, lost by 5 or more at home. Just the 10th time in their history. So, Graham, we've heard from Gary on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's future. We've heard from Jamie questioning what should happen next. What would your advice be to those who make the decisions here at Manchester United?
You mean in terms of the manager?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you've asked me that question. I've been a manager. I know how difficult it is when it's not going well. You'll never get me to say the manager should go, but the manager, he might need some help. Yeah, he talks about great staff. Well, I'm sorry. What I was looking at there, if the board have made their mind up, we're going to keep with Ole, and that's the game plan for this year and maybe beyond, the manager needs different people around him to point out what he himself is not seeing. Because that's as plain as the nose and the end of your face, what they weren't and what they didn't do today. Sometimes they went as collective, sometimes they dropped off, sometimes they're somewhere in between. They must have a game plan. You're playing one of the best teams in world football today, Liverpool. You know what they're going to do to you. They're going to hunt you down. They've got a really, really high-energy team from the front three to the midfield three. They're going to set about you physically. They're going to make you make passes you don't want. They're going to make you give the ball away. They're going to be after you. They're going to be like a dog with a bone. So what do you do with that? You say, we're not going to play out from the back. You know, we'll let them have the ball when it's their turn. Their game plan, I don't know what it was, having watched 90 minutes of them being all over the place.
Jermaine, do you think those players need some help?
I think what it needs to do as well, even on the other side of the game, where for long periods of the game they're running around and you ain't got the ball. But even when they get the ball back, try and gain some control of the game. Try and get to 5, 6, 7 passes. Instead of becoming like a basketball match where they get the ball back and they're trying these long passes and then you're losing the ball and then long periods again you're running without the ball. It's just everything's just disjointed. There's no structure.
When Graham's mentioning the staff here, now we know some of the staff. Michael Carra being in England squads. I think Darren Fletcher's got a role as well. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think there's young coach
Mike Phelan as well.
Yeah,
Kieran
he's a bit more experienced, to be fair. But Kieran McKenna has come in. Manchester United, and this is a phrase he's used at times, should have the best in class. Should have some of the best coaches or manager in the world. Now, if you have Ole as the manager, for me, you should have someone like Carlos Queiroz as a coach. You can't have people learning on the job, 3 or 4 of us staff, who've never been at a club at this size at any time in their lives in terms of a coaching position. They can't all be there at the same time. So if you're going to give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer the job 2 or 3 years ago, yes, Mike Phelan came in, but I don't think Mike Phelan's the coach. I'm not being disrespectful, but because they've got, obviously, Michael Carrick there, Kieran McKenna. They've never coached before in their lives. You've got to have someone who's been there before and done it. You can't be learning on the job at Manchester United.
Go and get the best possible coach you can get to work with, Ole.
No, Dave, I've worked with these people, and Graham stopped short of, Graham said over there that, I feel uncomfortable turning my attention to work that I don't even see. What I do know is that the reflection of that on the pitch is not good enough. The reflection of that on the pitch is not good enough. I've been a manager for 4 months, had a terrible time. And all this, to be fair, done, I think, a good job for 2.5 years. But this is going to put him under massive pressure. The last thing I'm going to do is start turning on his staff. I don't even speak to
Carrick, it's not
turning on his staff. We're talking about the actual experience of Manchester United.
Ole stays and then we sack his staff. I mean, to be fair, that's what happens. When the muck hits the fan, everyone gets a bit. And that's what's happening here tonight. Everyone gets a bit.
Yeah.
But look, Dave, I've never seen it where a manager's I brought a coach in Valencia after 2 or 3 months to try and save me. It didn't work. I don't think it's ever worked. I think Brian Robson did it at Middlesbrough with Terry Venables. I've seen it before. It doesn't work. I've never seen it work.
You can't say it doesn't work, Gary. It could work once, it might not work 5 times, it could work twice. I mean, they need help. Those young guys need help. Because that today...
Mike Phelan's got a lot of experience.
That today is telling me the message that they're trying to get across, it's not registering with the players. And I think that's not a case of sacking people. I think the message they're trying to get across to the players, the communication is not there. It's not happening for whatever reason, whether the players they're dealing with got a mental block, well, they have to be chased at the football
Graham
club.
said that. That performance was horrendous.
They are not taking the message on.
Horrendous, that performance.
Well, you can't, as a Man United supporter, sit there and think, OK, let's just go on, plough on and see where it takes us. This is Man United to come back to.
Yeah, I get it, Graham. But
I'm more than happy to tell you this is arguably the biggest football club in the world.
But what do you want to say?
It's an institution.
They
need help. Those young people that are the coaches today need help.
But they've got Mike Phelan. He's a very experienced coach.
Well, maybe Mike can't get the message across. Whatever message they're trying to get across, there's no argument about that.
When the muck hits the fan, everyone gets a bit, and that's what's happening here. Everyone's going to get a bit.
I'm not talking about... Sorry to jump in. I'm not talking about going to find a coach. I'm talking at the very start when you bring Ole in. For 2 or 3 years, everyone's learning on the job, and that can't be right at a club of this size.
Well, as you say, 2 or 3 years into this project, it's Ole's third season in charge.
OK, Ole gets the job. Sorry. Ole gets the job on the strength of what? Managing Mulder.
He got the job off the back of the fact that Jose got
managing Mulder. His CV is managing Mulder and managing Cardiff. And he gets arguably the biggest job in world football on the strength of that. That would tell you he needs someone with him who knows what they're doing.
He's got Mike Phelan. He's been to Sir Alex Ferguson for 10 years.
I'm sorry. They've been here 3 years. He's not won anything.
I know, but my point is
more disturbing than that is whatever they're communicating is not getting through to the players.
I get that.
Well, that's the only thing you should look at.
No, Graham, I've looked at it. The performance
there has to be
horrendous. I've
someone to get that
highlighted it.
message across.
The patterns of bad in that are terrible. It's happening against Leicester, it's happening against Villarreal, it's happening against Everton, it's happening against Villa. But the reality of it is, the board aren't going to sack him.
I'm not asking them to sack him.
You're bringing new coaches.
Well, OK, as a Liverpool supporter, I'm quite happy for you to plough the same furrow. But that's going to have, we'll have this conversation again and again and again.
But you think Ole's going to bring in new coaches?
Because that message they're trying to get across is
He's
not registering.
He's not going to bring in new coaches, Graham.
Well, plough on.
Why does that admit weakness?
That doesn't happen. You two are gone tonight. I think you're the problem. I'm going to bring 2 new ones in who are going to make
No one's going.
That doesn't happen.
No one's going.
All right, well, let's have a look at the games they've got coming up.
3.
Manchester United, because we're watching them next Saturday, and then they've got Atlanta, who've already proved a very tough opponent, and then it's the Manchester derby after that. How do they look on paper, Jermaine, with Chelsea away just around the corner as well?
Funny to say.
Even Watford away, Villarreal away.
All hard games. I think you've got to take one game at a time. Obviously, the manager's going to be looking for a reaction. And as players anyway, you know, especially the leaders in the change rooms. I could imagine the captain would sit down with the players, even without any of the coaching staff, they're the manager, and say, listen, we need to... Harry Maguire said in the interview, it's not good enough for a club of this size. You know, you need a reaction, and obviously the next game is against Tottenham away, and it's a difficult game.